Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Welcome back. And now we're switching gears to Dr. Ifediora Amobi, development economist, talking on debt and illegal fund flows in Nigeria and service cuts, hardship and hunger. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Okay, so we're talking about Nigeria's debt and illegal fund flows. I would like to know, what is your assessment of Nigeria's current debt situation? How big is our debt problem currently?
Well, our debt today is huge, and from the way things are going, it doesn't seem as if we're even planning to even slow down. Nobody's saying don't borrow. It all depends on what you're borrowing for and how you apply the funds, and whether what you're borrowing for is actually an investment that can have, positive or measurable returns. Most of the time, I mean, we have borrowed for good reasons, but we've also borrowed in the past and even lately for consumption and palliatives. And so the government announces that they want to give palliatives to poor Nigerians, and then they go to the World Bank and borrow money to give out free. So there's no return on that. At least no direct monetary return. So it can be a bit disturbing. At over 120 trillion naira in debt, that is a cause for concern.
That bad.
Yeah.
All right. When people hear about illegal fund flows, it sounds a bit abstract. So I would like you to explain to us what that means and how it affects Nigeria's economy.
Yeah, illegal fund flows are just basically money that leaves the country in ways that it should. So we talk about things like oil theft, tax evasions, money laundering, corruption. Just basically, people in government that just siphon funds and then move them to offshore accounts or to the private bank accounts outside the country. And so these are illegal funds that go out. In the formal sector side, you have like over-invoicing, whereby if an item is supposed to be, say, $10, it is over-invoiced to $20 or $30. So the foreign exchange gets to you, and then the difference, is taken out. And that has been going on for years and decades, and has really had negative impact on not just the economy itself, but the people of Nigeria.
Yes, and when you spoke about the debt, you said it's not just about borrowing, but what the money being borrowed is being used for. So I'd like to know, why exactly do you think that we are borrowing? We keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing, unending borrowing, and we are not seeing the effects of the money being borrowed.
Well, there's something in economics called the vicious cycle, of poverty. And so you're put in a loop that seems to be unending. So what happens now is that we borrow as a country, and when we borrow, we have to pay it back over time. Today we are borrowing about we are paying back 3/4 of what we earn. About 75% of our revenue today as Nigeria goes into servicing our debt. So what that means in essence is that if we make $100, $75 of it goes to service the debt that we borrowed. So there's $25 left for everything else we want to do in Nigeria. And out of that $25, part of it lives illegally from this same corruption and tax evasion and so on. So so when we now borrow like that and have to service this debt, it puts a big pressure on the services that we have to render, what we have budgeted for, education, health, etc., even infrastructure, building roads and bridges. And so if we can't do that, and if we now have this extra money going out, it means that the revenue that Nigeria is making wouldn't be enough to take care of those services or social needs that we had planned for. So we go back and borrow again. And we borrow again, money goes out again, we service, we don't have enough, people are hungry, there's hardship, etc. And when that happens, production suffers, so we don't produce enough. That means that we don't get enough revenue. That means that we can't service those things, so we go back and borrow again. So it's a cycle that we just go through over and over and over again.
Okay, are there a difference between productive borrowing and crippling debt? Are all debts bad?
Yes, I mean, there is a big difference between the two of them. All debt is not bad. Like I said earlier on, it's what you use the money for. If we borrow as Nigeria and we use the money that we borrow to build roads, what it now means is that there is easy access from, say, the farm to market, from industry, to the ports. And so it speeds up the process of trade, for instance. And so it has its benefits. And then when you borrow to build a road, you can actually toll that road and recover the money and pay back. So it is, under a PPP arrangement, a public-private partnership arrangement, for instance, you can also pay back loan from, tolls. Now, if you borrow and you invest it in education, you're actually building human capital. So it is an investment. If you borrow and build a general hospital, you're making people healthier, which will make them more productive. So in the long run, it's also an investment. If you borrow to pay 25,000 naira a month to 10 million Nigerians for 3 months as palliatives, there's no return on that, right? Yeah. So that's, that aspect is the crippling, part of it, whereby you're not getting anything back from what you're borrowing. You're just moving that sum to the next generation to pay back. And the more you do that, the more our children, get saddled with the debt.
There is something you said that struck me. You said PPP, that's public-private partnership. Do you think this collaboration can actually reduce the rate at which Nigeria borrow? Do you think that they can strike a balance and it can help with the debt servicing?
Absolutely, yes. The way public-private partnerships work is that government has a project, for instance. Government doesn't have enough funding for that project. And even if government has enough funding for that project, government can use that money for other things. So what they do is they throw that project into the private sector space. And they say, okay, companies in Nigeria, private concerns, investors, invest in this project, bring in your own money. We'll give you certain incentives. You will recover your money over a period of time. And so if it's to build a Nugun-Soka road or Abuja, Lagos, whatever it is, or even a rail line or a bridge or seaport, whatever the funds come from the private sector. The project is executed. The private sector and government have an agreement, either build, operate, and hand over transfer, of some sort, or BOT, they call it. So that way, there's less of a financial burden on government. It is private sector driven. It is told they recover their funds, and then the public uses that good. Because most times, if we keep waiting for government to provide the funds to execute major projects, we could wait forever.
Okay, that's very true. Yeah. But I'd just like to know, talking about this money being taken out of the country illegally, is there a way Nigeria can put a stop to this thing? Because I mean, the people that take it's not the ordinary Nigerians that do these things. So I mean, why are we struggling so much with curbing the money flowing out illegally? And you know, what are there any practical steps you think that can be taken to help this situation?
Yeah, government has to make a commitment, because it is the same rich politician who is the architect behind these illegal flows. So it is being championed by the rich class, right? The political class. They are the ones evading taxes. They're the ones, you know, who are corrupt. They're the ones laundering money outside. They're the ones that have foreign bank accounts, etc. The average Nigerian is the one suffering. We're the ones who now have these services that are being cut, that we don't have access to. We don't have good education. We don't have good health services, etc. So, from your question, what can we do to stop it? First and foremost, I think we have to, just like I said earlier on, make sure that the money we borrow, you know, is tied to projects that, you know, have a measurable return, and not just consumption or palliatives or one bed, like this. Secondly, we have to be able to recover, you know, make it a point. I mean, we have institutions like ICPC and EFCC and rest of them. They should go after these people and get these funds back. I mean, just see how much we even got and are still getting from just the Abacha loot, you know, and that's just one person. So you can imagine all the other politicians who have been in power in the past. If we go after them the same way we went after, you know, Abacha, we could recover quite a bit of money. Also, we have to ensure that that these illegal funds, you know, are stopped. We have to know, because we know as government the track where this money, how it goes out, who is behind it, whether it's being done through the banks or whether it's being done through, you know, the Ministry of Finance, whatever it is. But we have to be able to plug these loopholes and ensure that that outward flow is curbed. And then pay more attention to the social services. So even in our budgets, we have to make sure that things like, you know, areas like agriculture, infrastructure, education, health are given priority, because this is what affects the average person more than anything else. Yeah,
very true.
All right. Looking at what you have said now, who do you think benefits more from all these illegal flows? Is it multinational corporations, or do you think it's corrupt officials, or both?
Well, first of all, it's corrupt officials, because they're the ones who, who do that. Multilateral organizations also benefit, because we talked about the cycle before. The more illegal flows occur, the less services, you know, the average person gets in Nigeria. So, and then when that happens, we have to go back and borrow from the same multilateral corporations. And so, which is good for them, because the more money they give us, the more control they have over us, the more interest they can recover from us, and charges and penalties, because they know we're going to default as developing countries. So they've already built all these things in. So they give you $100 million, they eventually recover $120 million from you as a poor country. So it benefits them in that regard. It also benefits the officials. But I think the estimate is about between $15 billion just last year alone in illegal flows that have gone out. So
now bringing it down to like ordinary Nigerians, I mean, you've mentioned that this cycle definitely trickles down and affects the ordinary, but like, let's break it down. How does this cycle of debt and illegal flows create more hardship for ordinary Nigerians?
Okay, first and foremost, if Nigeria was supposed to spend 100 naira in one sector, let's say education, for instance, and out of that 100 naira, 30 naira goes out illegally. What it means is that education has now been cut by 1/3. So whatever it is we're supposed to provide for education has now been cut by 1/3. And this 100 naira is actually what is left from the 75% that has gone into debt service. Okay. So when we talk about who's benefiting more, the multilateral organizations are also benefiting, because we have to service the debt even before we provide money for our own people. That one is non-negotiable, so that has to be done. So now, when what is left, this 30 naira, goes out as illegal flow, and education or health or whatever sector suffers, that has to be made up. Now, either funds have to come from somewhere to make up that difference, and that will come from borrowing, because we can't print money, why does it become inflationary? So we go back to the same people and say we need more money, or they dangle the money in front of us, and so it's a cause for concern.
It's quite a lot.
Well, then, do you think Nigerian leaders are actually, truly feeling the impact of this illegal fund flows and issues and, poverty, hardship? Is there a way that it's affecting them? And then are there any form of policies or reforms that can be put in place to actually curb this situation?
Yes, it's affecting them, but it's affecting them positively, because they all have access to move these funds out. And so for a number of them, it could be something a bit more competitive, who can even move more funds out into their own accounts out there. All their children are abroad in school. School fees abroad is no longer cheap. So it makes them even want more to be able to service their children's lifestyles out there. Most of them have houses there that they pay mortgage and so on. I mean, there's just so much. So they are the key beneficiaries. Are there policies that can put in place to now curb this? It's not going to be easy, because the same people are quote unquote policy makers.
Right.
So you bite the finger that feeds you. That's why I said institutions like the EFCC and the ICPC and those ones should be strengthened and given enough powers to go after these people and expose them and make examples out of them. By the time you do that, others will be a little bit more afraid to do what they'll do. But it'll take a long time.
Yes, it will. But do you think that they are making any efforts? Because sometimes we'll see on the papers, like sometime last week we saw on the papers that we've stopped borrowing locally or something like that. And you hear these things and you think, is the government really doing something about this? But then you come another day and then you see, we've World's Bank or something. So there are so many contradictory statements as to our funds and our economy. So do you think, what do you think about that? Do you think they are making any genuine efforts, or it's just for the headlines?
Yeah, well, I know they're concerned, because they also want to see things improve, but they don't want to give up what they have to make things improve.
Yes.
Now, they're genuinely concerned. However, they are benefiting from this the inefficiencies within the system. And even when you say you're not going to borrow, you get punished by the creditors, because they want you to borrow. The whole idea behind them even existing is to keep you where you are and make you dependent on them globally. So that's why I said it's a tough, it's actually an uphill battle. That's why countries find it difficult to move from, that class of developing or underdeveloped into being a developed country. And you really have to fight a war and really prove that, hey, I can break out of this mold. Otherwise,
you remain there.
They'll keep you there. Yeah.
All right. How do you think Nigeria can actually attract international investors into, making more investments, getting much more development, and thereby increasing the economical state of Nigeria?
Well, two ways, and there are two types of investors. There are those who come in to invest and help the country grow, long term. There are those who just come in with a portfolio to just take advantage of the confusion and the inefficiency within the system. So, if Nigeria goes into conflict or is fighting a war, you'll find a lot of investors coming in because they want to take advantage of that conflict. They invest in arms. They invest in, in things that will even
worsen the
exactly.
situation.
The longer the war is, the more money they make. Okay, if Nigeria doesn't go in that direction, then to attract investors into the country, you have to make the environment conducive for them to come in. Investors, long-term investors want security. The environment has to be secure. Nobody wants to bring their money into a place where there's chaos. So you must ensure that there is security. Investors also want to bring their money in a place where the local people are investing. If more Nigerians are investing outside Nigeria, it's not a good sign for somebody outside Nigeria to bring their money into Nigeria. Investors also look for environments where the workforce is well educated and vibrant. Because if I want to bring money into Nigeria as an investor, I don't want to start bringing in labor also, because it's more expensive for me.
Yes.
I want to, to make sure that where I'm bringing the money, the youth there are well educated, can handle this business and manage it properly and make a profit. If the quality of education or the level of education is falling and dropping, as we see a lot of it going on now, it's a red flag for an investor. That means that if I bring my money in, these guys are so dumb that they won't be able to even manage my company or something, or they might just grab this money and run away. So those are some of the things investors look at. And then, of course, government has to provide incentives to attract them. Because if I'm an investor from Europe, for instance, and I want to come into West Africa, I'm looking at Nigeria, I'm looking at Ghana, I'm looking at Cote d'Ivoire, I'm looking at Senegal and Gambia and places like that. And I'm comparing incentives. If Nigeria is only giving me land, and Ghana has given me land and a tax holiday and this and that, chances are I'll tilt more towards Ghana. If Nigeria is giving me A, B, C, D, E, but can't guarantee security of my own investment and my workers because of the internal terrorism going on or whatever, then I'll go somewhere else. So there's a lot government has to do to ensure that their own environment is conducive so that it will enable businesses to come in. A lot of people use the word, enabling environment without really understanding how it works. Yeah. If there's security and safety and there's peace and harmony, it will enable investors, not just foreign but also domestic, to come in and invest.
Now, if Nigeria keeps at this pace of economic decline, continuous borrowing and illegal funds leaving the country, what risks do we face, say, in the next 5-10 years if we keep at this?
Well, if we keep at this, it's obvious that we'll go into, some type of economic, strangulation. But to be fair, the Nigerian economy isn't declining as bad as it was before. There's been, a slowdown. There's been a bit of stability, compared to a year, 2 years ago when prices were just, going all over the place, and the exchange rate was this today and that tomorrow. Things have stabilized. Some of the reforms that the president and his government have been putting in place seem to have, yes, given us a bit of stability right now. Things are still hard, prices are still high, but you can at least plan and say to yourself, okay, if I don't buy this today, I can go to the market next week and still buy it at the same price, or at least something close to that, which is not bad in itself, but a lot still has to be done. Security to farmers to ensure that food security is ensured, lower interest rates for manufacturers to ensure that they have access to credit and they can expand their businesses and hire more people. All those things have to be considered. And so, yeah, we are not there yet. But if the central bank doing what it's doing now, if they can maintain some of these policies, then we can start seeing light at the end of the tunnel. But it's not going to be like tomorrow or next. We still have a long way to go.
Yes. Yeah. But then, what do you think about the recent tax reform, petroleum 5% tax reform that the FG put in place? What do you think?
Not particularly happy because of the timing. We're still in that era of high tariffs and high charges from everything from power, electricity to telecommunications to everything is still there. Income or revenue hasn't improved for the average Nigerian individual or business. And so having to now impose an additional tax can be seen as not just insensitive, but for lack of a better word, brutal to your people. And I think that as government at this point in time should be looking at the people up there and saying, okay, we have already tightened the belts of the average Nigerian. Now it's time for those of us at the top to now make some sacrifices. They're talking about even increasing their own salaries.
Yes.
So
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ifediora Chimeze Amobi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that is where we're going to end that conversation on debts and illegal fund flows in Nigeria, end service codes, hardship and hunger on Signature Morning. And coming up next is Political Circle with Luke Umbo. And after that, we're going to join our Abuja studio for their conversation. Just stay with us.
With a population of about 36 million people, the Southeast is awash with stories,